There are many Azimio supporters who usually believe that when things are quiet, when not much is happening, Azimio are idle. They're just sitting somewhere very idle, waiting for things to happen. That is not true. Indeed, even when things are quiet, usually there's a lot going on in the background, in the back rooms. And on my show today, I want to discuss a trend, a pattern that I've noticed in Azimio, a new direction they're taking. And this new direction will shock most of us. Now, it has become very obvious to most Kenyans that in this Kenyan crisis, there is a third player in the shadows. On one side we have Azimio, on the other side we have Kenya Kwanza, but there is a third very powerful player in the shadows. And what is coming out is that both sides of the political divide fear this third player. They never want to talk about this third player. And if anybody brings a question which goes in that direction, they avoid it. They don't want to discuss about this third player. And of course, many Kenyans have guessed who this third player is. Now, the trend I've observed is that in recent days, Azimio is going out of its way, doing everything to at least take cautious stabs to not keep quiet about this third player. Wakitoa makucha, when they do something that affects the country. Previously, both sides would keep quiet, and even the affected side, Azimio, would not discuss it. Well, it seems that is changing. And I'm going to give you two examples of this that have unfolded within the last few days. Raila Odinga's lawyer, long-time lawyer, Paul Mwangi, has written directly to the ICC, International Court at The Hague, the oversight people, complaining about the chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, and giving the ICC more information about Karim Khan's involvement and dealings in the country called Kenya. For instance, lawyer Paul Mwangi has revealed that Karim Khan and his wife are actively involved in charity work in Kenya. What? Now, there are many of us who may see nothing wrong with that. Charity work is good. However, in this particular instance, we're talking about the country called Kenya. I made you laugh the other day when I told you at the ICC, when you mentioned the country called Kenya, as a result of the trials, what happened with the trials of some Kenyans at the ICC, which had never before been seen at the ICC. And so, it is a very big deal that the chief public prosecutor of the ICC would be actively involved in charity work within the country called Kenya. Of all the other countries in the world, why Kenya? Also in Paul Mwangi's letter was the very, very strange behavior of Karim Khan of recusing himself from the Kenyan cases very late in the day. That is, despite his heavy involvement with suspects of the ICC post-2008, despite his charity work, some of which may be linked to some of those suspects in Kenya, despite all that, he did not recuse himself from the Kenyan cases until very late, until something happened. Azimio complained when he came into the country, allegedly to receive an honorary degree. So after Azimio complained, suddenly he decided to recuse himself. Paul Mwangi brings out that in his letter, which brings a lot of question marks about conflict of interests and indeed integrity in a prosecutor. Now, the reason why this is super fascinating is that analysts have noticed that there's been a kind of reluctance at the International Criminal Court at The Hague to really calm down fast and quickly on this police brutality case in Kenya. And this hesitancy is strange. But for close observers, it is not very surprising. For those who understand what is happening in international politics, that may not be very surprising. And I'm going to give you a quick hint. There's a war going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. Examine carefully the ICC focus on cases on which side of that war they're based, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. And so back to Paul Mwangi. In most instances, Azimio would have let this slide. After all, Karim Khan has already recused himself. After all, a lot of international attention has already been drawn to that controversy. And therefore, things should be going well for Azimio in this particular case. And I believe they are. However, Azimio has decided to instigate that extra nudge of having Paul Mwangi write to the ICC and to keep pushing at the ICC, by drawing attention to this very big mess involving the ICC prosecutor. You know what happens in politics. Even in international politics, it works exactly the same as local politics. For example, as in Gishu, there may have been some reluctance by authorities to take action against those involved in this Finland-Canada scholarship saga. But because of the media coverage, embarrassment has come to the authorities, and therefore they have been forced to take action. And therefore in the ICC case, this may be what is going to unfold. And then example number 2 is the leader of Azimio, Raila Odinga himself, hitting out very hard at the United States envoy in Kenya over her recent very unfortunate, very crazy remarks in Eldoret. In the same Eldoret where Raila was making these remarks. In that very same Eldoret where I told you earlier, in an earlier video, that a lot of interesting information and things are going to be unfolding as the governors attend the devolution conference in that town. Now, in my opinion, the remarks of Meg Whitman, the US envoy to Kenya, were a very terrible strategic mistake. Why? Mostly because it attracted attention, reminded Kenyans of what happened at Bomas last August. Meg Whitman was at Bomas a lot. She was very active at Bomas in her capacity as a foreign envoy, observing the elections. But then Kenyans are suspicious because those elections she was observing produced very strange results that don't make sense. And then after that, she comes out and makes her remarks. The remarks she made in Eldoret, saying it was the best election ever in Kenyan history. That all makes it look very, very fishy. Those chain of events, they make it fishy. It would have been better if she didn't make those remarks. Then people would not have been able to link her being in Bomas, strange results, and then she praises the same elections. Hapo kuna kitu, hapo most Kenyans are saying, lazima iko kitu. And Raila Odinga decided to take advantage of this scenario to say something about Madam Whitman in Eldoret when he was addressing governors, which further draws even more attention to what Whitman said. It was definitely not a good move. Very serious blunder. Whatever the objective and the intentions were, because it attracts attention to the United States and its role in the Kenyan mess. That's what it does. Because you can do the most beautiful analysis about what the problem in Kenya is. Give us so many theories. Kizungu mingi, tons of kizungu. But then it all boils down to one very simple thing. In 2007, we had election troubles. In 2013, tensions were very high after the elections. 2017, the same. 2022, the same. The common factor in all those was something called a stolen election. Because people in a country will not be tense if the election results reflect how people voted. Where will the tension come from? But if the results do not reflect how people voted, then you know there's going to be trouble. And if the minority supported government comes into power, and then the first thing they do is introduce punitive taxes, then you know what to expect. Yeah? Even more tension and a very serious crisis and looming danger for the nation called Kenya. That is really what it is. You know the remarks by the US envoy, yeah, those kind of remarks, she has just thrown herself into Kenyan politics. And obviously that is not a good idea. Yes, she's an envoy, but it is like the referee wanting to support one side. It is like a referee, and indeed she's a referee in what is happening in Kenya. It is like a referee starting to praise one side just before the match starts. What do you think will be the reaction of the other side? You're supposed to be neutral, yeah, but then you come out and you start speaking like a very enthusiastic youth winger of the other side. What do you expect? And if the UDA High Command thought for 1 minute that getting the US envoy to solidify the narrative they want to take hold, then by now they will already know it was a very serious miscalculation. And talking of fake narratives, that is what has ruled Kenyan politics. And I discussed that in my latest book and gave very crazy revelations I'm sure most of us have never heard of. You can see details on your screens right now in case you've not gotten hold of this explosive book I've written. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.